Do you know you can have a gut issue and have an immune problem like autoimmunity? Do you know you can have a GI issue and it only show up as joint pain? So these are the things that we've been taught that doesn't happen. Like everything stays in the gut. That's completely nonsense. Everything in the body affects everything else. We are fluid individuals. We're organisms. Everything is moving and shaking all the time. So, I'll do my intake and we'll do all kinds of things and we'll get into, oh, I don't have a problem with my gut. Yeah, I'm totally good with that. Like when I eat food, I can have a bowel movement fine. Well, the gut does way more than just digest your food, right? It helps control inflammation in the body. It helps make neurotransmitters and neurochemicals for your brain. It sends out chemical messengers all over the body, to your skin, to your other organs. That's how everything's connected. So when we talk about, oh, I don't have pain, I don't have diarrhea, so I'm good, it goes way beyond that.
You're listening to Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, and I'm your hostess, Diane Kaiser, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, former pro soccer player, transformational leader, holistic healer, and life purpose coach, helping you and your business awaken to your full potential. We are a transformation tribe of visionaries empowering passion-quenching, heart-centered advice for wellness warrior leaders on self-love, nutrition, mindset, and divorcing perfectionism. Our mission is to help you laugh your way to a sexy belly, love your way to vitality, and live your life with purpose by sharing real talk and truth drops that will help you cleanse your body, heal your hormones, and ignite your life. Side effects of this podcast may include all-day energy, happy hormones, perfect poops, increased confidence, becoming your own best healer, and catching the self-love virus. There's currently no vaccination to protect you from this and no known cure. In most cases, listeners experience a strong desire to accept new challenges, ditch toxic people, follow their heart, and dance like no one's watching. If you experience moods happier than usual, live it unapologetically and share with your social media friends immediately. Hey, warriors, welcome to another episode of Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast. I am here today coming to you from Sedona, Arizona. What's up? The Thunder Mountain is right in front of me. So if anybody has ever been to Arizona, you know how beautiful and sacred and energetically just uplifting this place is. So I've been here for a week. I'm in the process of moving, so you could see a little bit of my chaos behind me. I'm calling it a hot masterpiece because I'm in transition, as so many of us are right now with COVID and life, right? 2020, who would ever thunk that the year would have gone as haywire as it has already. But nevertheless, we continue on with doing the very number one thing that we believe your focus should be now and always, which is to invest in your health. Because you never know what virus or random chemical or microchip or stressor, emotional stressor is going to be thrown at you. So your mental health, your physical health, your entire mental well-being is extremely important. So today we're going to talk about the mother lode of health, which is in your gut. And I brought on my good friend, Dr. Seth, over here to talk deeper, literally, about how we can master our health through our gut, our digestive tract. What's up, Dr. Seth?
Hey, Diane, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I love doing stuff like this to just raise more awareness about how awesome our bodies are and the capacity we have to heal and do awesome things. And if we can take the bad things out and put good things in, as simplistic as that sounds, we can rock this.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite slogans to say about what we do here. It's we knock the bad stuff out so the good stuff can get in. And that's totally it, right? Is that your body can only absorb or rehydrate and to nourish you as long as your body is able to take the things into the cell. So if we're, I always say, if you're in a mental, emotional, defended state, and you're protecting yourself and you're pushing things away, and if you're in a state of resistance, then as above, so below, then it's very possible that your cells are also going, no, and they're pushing things away. So you guys do so many things. Most people who are on this podcast, we get you. You've done a lot of things. That's how Dr. Seth both and I have gotten into, functional medicine space, because we were going through a lot of torture and we were working with a lot of Western medicine doctors who were telling us that we should just pop a bunch of pills and do more scans and cut things out. And it only made us worse. So I can speak for Dr. Seth on this, and I'll let him share a little bit about his journey. But that's exactly it, is that you guys are doing a lot of things. You're doing a lot of supplements, you're doing a lot of cleanses, you're doing a lot of
visits to the doctor, you're doing a lot of biohacks, but oftentimes it's just in the wrong order, or it's things that you're taking are high quality, but they just can't get to where they need to go because you might be congested and you might be literally full of shit. So today we're going to talk shit. We're going to talk about your digestive tract. We're going to talk about what Hippocrates said many, many years ago, which is that all disease begins in the gut, which also means that all wellness can begin in the gut too. So Dr. Seth, can you give us a shortened version? Because I want to go for probably about a half hour today, if we can, maybe 40 minutes. We'll see how we do. And then have a series of these because we have so much to cover. The digestive tract is very, very deep. So we're going to talk about some myths today, some misconceptions. We're going to talk about gut mastery. So what you guys can do, because a lot of things we're told out there about what is really, truly gut health is quite frankly just shit. It's bullshit. So we want to help you feel like you're the shit instead. So a lot of shit jokes on the show today. Dr. Seth, can you share a little bit about your journey, about what got you so passionate about not just gut health, but about hormonal health, because they are obviously tied together?
Sure. And Hippocrates said that in 460 BC, I think it was. So he was way ahead of his time. So my story started, I was a kid. I was a very, very active kid. I was playing a lot of sports. That was my world. And starting at age 13, I started having these weird pains and aches all over my body, which lead me to, I had to sit on the sidelines a little bit. I had to stop playing sports. That frustrated me. But years go on, I got a physical therapist and start taking muscle relaxers and all kinds of things. Start getting headaches, which progressed into migraines. And these were like, I had to sit in a dark room migraines, or else I'd have to, almost puke because it was so intense. So, we didn't know anything. We went down the conventional medical route. So we're going to doctors, we're seeing, specialists and doing all these tests, and no one knows what's wrong with me. So like, all right, you're on a muscle relaxer. We're going to give you a migraine preventative, and here's a migraine abortive. Keep going. Like, all right. And this is, I'm 15 at this point, going through high school. Everyone else is seemingly healthy. And, I'm the weird one that has these issues. So, time goes on. Age 17, on my birthday, I get vertigo, crazy vertigo, which if you don't know what that is, it's extreme dizziness where it feels like your whole world is just spinning all around you, like you're on a roller coaster. And mine was so bad that I vomit, puke. So now we're really worried at this point. Like, what the heck is going on? Like, he looks like a healthy kid on the outside. Like, what's going on? So we go to, again, more doctors. We're getting CT scans, MRIs, ENGs, EEGs, blood work. All this stuff comes up negative. You don't have any tumors. You don't have cancer. You don't have these big things. There's nothing wrong. It's on your head. Take these. Maybe you're depressed. Here, take some of your antidepressants. So, okay, all right, here's some more medications. Go home. The next year, I get hit with a terrible wave of anxiety and depression. Just terrible, along with all these GI symptoms, gas, bloating, fatigue, and brain fog. This is my senior year. I can barely function. I'm on 5 medications. I had to quit playing sports. Relationships suffered. And I'm about hopeless at this time because I've been to, over a dozen doctors, had all these tests ran. They tell me it's all in your head. Just take these medications for the rest of your life. You have to, So at some point, when I hit rock bottom, being in my shower, like not wanting to live anymore, I was like, okay, I've got to find another answer. So went to these natural docs in my hometown, and they're like, oh yeah, the body's meant to heal. Like, this isn't you. Like, you've got something wrong. Like, it's okay. We'll just get rid of the bad stuff and your body can heal. And I'm like, what? I mean, that's the first time anyone ever told me that, because everyone else was like, oh, you have to take this forever. That's just it. Like, you got a bad hand you were dealt. You're sick. So just take these medications. So that led me on the path of body's meant to heal. Ended up going to chiropractic school. And that's really stressful. If you guys don't know, going through school, it's 10-hour days, and then you have to study. And it's really, really difficult. So again, my adrenals just plummeted through there. I gained, about 55, 60 pounds along the way through all of this.
Wow.
And then I finally found functional medicine, and these guys were talking about, reversing autoimmune diseases, reversing cancers, getting rid of diabetes and heart disease and all these things. And I'm like, that is really cool. So I dove into that. And turns out, from doing these specialty tests that not many doctors in the country run, I had parasites, I had candida, I had mold issues, I had heavy metal toxic overload. I had all these inflammatory disorders, and like looking back, it's like, that all makes sense. Like, growing up, we used to go and camp in this trailer that had mold in it. We used to swim in lakes and rivers all the time. I had a lot of head injuries and traumas, which slows down your gut. It's just a breeding ground for your gut to go haywire, to have this overgrowth of bad stuff, bad shit, So going through the whole process, I lost 55 pounds, got off all my medications. I can think again. I can work out again. And the possibilities are endless now. So that's why I do what I do. It's why I got into this, because too many people are out there suffering needlessly. Their doctors are telling them they're crazy. Their doctors are telling them it's all in their head. Doctors are telling them you have to take these 5-10 medications for the rest of your life. Don't accept that. Get a second opinion, because that is not true. It does not have to be true for you. So that's what I do. So now I'm inherently skeptical of pretty much anything I hear. I research. I do the research. I do it because, I had all these doctors, authority figures telling me this is how it is. Accept it. Where I was like, no, I don't want to. I want to be healthy and thrive.
Right. Wow, that's so powerful. And I hope it's hopeful to hear Seth's story, because this is what life is about, I believe, is that when you're brought to this desperation point where you just want to feel whatever normal is, right? Like, this is we could do a whole other podcast on like, what is normal? But we don't care. Dr. Seth and I don't really want to mess around with what's normal. We want to mess around with what feels optimal and superhuman, because you can feel that way. Whatever normal is, is, to me, I think of normal as what you just described, because that is the average person out there today, right? The normal is you go to your doctor, they do exactly what you just said. That's normal. So we're not here today to talk about what's normal. We're here to help you guys become optimal by understanding that there is a better way. And that, as I usually always say, is that symptoms are self-love from your soul. And every symptom is trying to speak to you to get your attention. But there are some myths that we're going to go into today about symptoms too, because we want to help you learn to listen to your body. And then what do you do with that? When you finally understand what it might be trying to say, the first question would be, okay, who do I go see if I have symptoms that I can't understand or unexplainable and they're bothering me? When you first feel a symptom, if it's more persistent, it's a good idea to then go see someone. But unfortunately, we're brainwashed to go talk to your doctor, which is a Western medicine doctor, which will put you in a drug, which will tell you that you need to take forever because you were handed a band ham. And that's just, it's just lies. It's total lies. And it's a great way for them to make profits, but they're not listening to you. So think about in your relationships or in your family, when you feel like you're unheard, you're trying to say something and no one's listening. Why would you continue to go back to an institution that is trained to literally not teach you how to listen to your body, but that they know more than you? And it's a fear-based model. So this is what we want to talk about today, is a faith-based model and a freedom-based model. So it's a compassionate model to get you to understand what your symptoms might be trying to say, and then where to go to help you understand what they might be trying to say by someone like myself or Dr. Seth, who is a trained expert on how to help you listen to your body through looking at your whole history. Like Dr. Seth, look at all the things that he just mentioned. I mean, head injuries, that's huge. Very few people even relate head injuries to slowed motility. And it's your diet, it's your lifestyle, it's supplements you take, it's thoughts that you think, it's so many things. So it's not just one isolated incident, it's a holistic approach. So let's get into it, Dr. Seth. First of all, welcome to the light side. Like, that's a huge hero's journey, right? Like,
Oh my gosh.
I bet you trust yourself now, huh?
Yeah, isn't that wild? Yeah. It's so, I guess it's rewarding being on both sides of it, because whether it's doing the spiritual work or this work, it's like you're going through the mud to get to the light. But being able to experience and feel that the lowest of lows, the hopelessness, the pain, everything makes you appreciate how this feels. And I think some people, they're stuck, but they're like, here, they're functioning like 20%, but they don't know that they have that extra 80%. So,
yes.
And I tell people all the time, you don't know how bad you feel until you feel better. Like, your body has a capacity to do amazing things. So don't accept anything less than amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. Once you only know the lowest of your lows, once you're also at the highest of your highs, and you're able to just face them and accept them and understand that it's all just an experience that your body's trying to teach you. But do not, if you're anybody that wants to accept suffering in silence as okay or normal and is not willing to ask for help, this is not going to help you. None of these conversations we have in this podcast will ever help you, because you have to be willing to get real and to face these things and to ask for help. So asking for help is not weak, but also knowing where to go for help is important. So I brought on Dr. Seth into our Chi Hormone Warrior Transformation tribe because I think he's a genius and he's funny and his story is amazing. So he has a way, this is what I appreciate about the way I teach too, is a way to make it relatable to each person and to make the journey fun and not so scary. Because it can be so scary when a doctor says you're screwed, you know? There's nothing you can do. And you're like, well, that sounds defeating. I guess, wow, my life is going to suck then because this feels terrible. So we're going to talk about some of the myths that we see in the practice and the tribe. And I'll have an invitation at the end if you guys are hearing this and you're thinking, God, this really starts to make sense to me. Like when you pull it all together, then let's talk. But let's start it here with some of the myths. Let's talk about the myths and the misconceptions in the world of GI health, Dr. Seth. So what is the first one that I would say almost drives you crazy when you hear people say it?
I think, one of the biggest or most misunderstood ones is, I don't have diarrhea every day. I don't have pain in my stomach, so I don't have a gut problem. So we've been trained, with conventional medicine in particular, we compartmentalize everything and say, we have a podiatrist, we have a neurologist, we have a doctor for every body part. But the whole body is interconnected. Did you know that you can have a GI problem, but it shows up in your skin? Did you know you can have a GI problem, but it shows up in brain symptoms like brain fog, cognitive issues, sleep issues, mood swings, irritability? Do you know you can have a gut issue and have an immune problem like autoimmunity? Do you know you can have a GI issue and it only show up as joint pain? So these are the things that we've been taught that doesn't happen. Like everything stays in the gut. It's completely nonsense. Everything in the body affects everything else. We are fluid individuals. We're organisms. Everything is moving and shaking all the time. So, I'll do my intake and we'll do all kinds of things and we'll get into, I don't have a problem with my gut. Yeah, I'm totally good with that. Like when I eat food, I can have a bowel movement fine. Well, the gut does way more than just digest your food, right? It helps control inflammation in the body. Helps make neurotransmitters and neurochemicals for your brain. It sends out chemical messengers all over the body, to your skin, to your other organs. That's how everything's connected. So when we talk about, I don't have pain, I don't have diarrhea, so I'm good, it goes way beyond that. But I do have, more in-depth questionnaires and things like that. But I run, stool tests on many, many people. But we also do cleanses and things like that where stuff comes out of people and they're like, oh my gosh, it's estimated 85% plus of people have parasites. Yes, even in America. But even things like Candida, H. pylori, SIBO, all these are just infections that can be in your gut and you don't even necessarily know. Maybe you're just tired, right? Maybe you're sleeping a little less. Maybe you're a little more irritable. But also what these can do, they can rob you of the food that you're eating. So maybe you're a little more B12 deficient now. So that's affecting your red blood cells or your immune system or your brain. So you see how everything in the gut can affect your systemic body, everything, literally everything. So that's why I usually start, and I know you do too, we've got to clean the gut out. We got to make sure you're digesting your food, which is one of the jobs of the gut. We got to make sure the bugs are balanced. So you've got trillions of bacteria in your gut. And you've got a lot of good and just a little bit of bad. I tell people it's like a garden. What happens to your yard or your garden if you don't tend to it for, let's even say just a month? It's going to look like shit, right? The grass is going to be 3 feet tall. There's going to be weeds everywhere. There's going to be bad bugs and critters crawling around. Think if you don't tend to your gut for decades and what happens with all the stuff we're exposed to today. Same type of thing. So if you've ever had antibiotics in your life, if you've ever been on any medications, especially antibiotics, birth control, proton pump inhibitors, if you've ever been stressed in your life, if you've ever eaten any kind of processed foods or genetically modified foods, chances are you have some kind of issue with your gut. I don't know if that's something you see too, but I tell people that all the time. It's you cannot go just by GI symptoms to see the health of your gut.
Want to say something? This is exactly what I was, my most recent illustration, Dr. Seth, and we love to educate you guys so that you feel excited about learning these things. What you just said, here's my, well, if you guys listen to the podcast, you won't see it, but if you want to see this on YouTube, you can a little picture and you see a little body. So it's that connect to you acne or hair loss or bloat constipation, then it could be that the root of it is low ferritin, PCOS, adrenal and thyroid imbalance, and cartilage. There's so many different root causes to all of this that it's a bit difficult to pinpoint. So when you have practitioners who really know what to look for, deeper than just blood testing and deeper than just scans, then you can start to put the puzzle pieces together. And I would say it's really important to work with somebody who has had brief education, experience, and empathy, because they've been working and they know how frustrating it is to go about this by yourself or to do it with doctors who just do some subpar testing, which I heard 2 more myths come up there, Dr. Seth. One of them was, you didn't necessarily say it, but I concluded it, that I hear this one a lot too when women come into our practice, is that, oh, well, my doctor ran a stool panel, and everything was clear. And what I mean by that is, as you probably experience, is a GI doctor that does a stool test in Western medicine that's covered by insurance. So what is the difference, and why is that a myth that we should definitely pay attention to? And how could it harm us if we don't go deeper?
Sure. So I do a lot of GI stuff in my practice too, and I see a lot of people that have been to gastroenterologists, and they come and they drop 50 sheets of paper in front of me, and they said, I've been tested for everything and my gut's normal. And it's just like pictures of scopes like colonoscopy, endoscopy, or blood work they did. Very, very rarely, I'd say less than 5% of those people have a stool test that they did from the gastroenterologist. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a training, and if there's any gastroenterologists out there that could tell me, are they not trained to do stool tests? I really don't know, but how do you test the function of the gut without a stool test? So let's say you get a colonoscopy. What they're doing, they're pretty much going in with a camera, and they're looking around. They're looking for big stuff. They're looking for cancers. They're looking for tumors, polyps, ulcers. That's pretty much the extent of it. They're not looking for parasites, bacterial imbalance, inflammation, digestibility, candida, C. diff. They're not looking for any, because you can't usually see these with your naked eye, right? So I had, for instance, I had someone who came to me. She had diarrhea. Her diarrhea came on all of a sudden, and she had it for a year and a half by the time she got to me. But right after, she went to her GP, who sent her to a gastroenterologist, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. The gastroenterologist sent her to another gastroenterologist, and then that gastroenterologist sent her to, I think, some kind of therapist or something, because they thought it was all in her head. No one ever did a stool test the whole time. It's been a year and a half later. She comes in, we do a stool test, and I believe she had C. diff plus a few parasites. Within 2 weeks, she's having normal bowel movements again. And I can't understand why you wouldn't do a stool test to see what's going on in the gut. It just makes total sense to me to look inside and see. So testing is important, because without testing, you're kind of guessing. So the stool test that we run, it's a very specific DNA stool test that almost no doctors run. So if you go to your GP or gastroenterologist, they're not going to run this stool test. It's way more in depth. Like I had someone today, he has ulcerative colitis. He went to of course he has a gastroenterologist. They ran, I think, a stool test, but they just tested for blood, C. diff, and maybe Giardia. That's it. While we're testing for, dozens of pathogenic bacteria, good bacteria, all these other things. We ran it to, literally, I just remember this. He had multiple parasites. He had candida, H. pylori, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. His inflammation's through the roof. He's not digesting his food, and his immune system's going haywire. And he was just in
Ooh.
shock that he's like, well, why wouldn't they run this? And I'm like, that's a great question. It's very simple to run these. Anyways, like I said, the stool tests, they check for all those things I just mentioned. Bad bugs, good bugs, viruses, parasites, inflammation. Are you digesting your food? What's the immune system like? Are you detoxing from your gut? And all this is vital to understand not only your gut, but your entire body and your health in general.
Yeah. And it's also really important to know too, if you're going to use antibiotics, sometimes Dr. Seth and I agree that the patients that we work with inside of Chi, it might make sense to do some probiotic or antibiotics because certain strains of H. pylori or certain kinds of gut pathogens may warrant that. Certain kinds of parasites, after 3 or 6 months worth of trying to go on a bug killing spree, which is not the only thing we do, which is another myth, we might need some antibiotics. But the case is that right now, one of the gals we're working with, she has an antibiotic resistance that we were able to determine on the DNA test that we use, that the bugs that she does have are resistant to like all but one type of antibiotics that are out there. So if you're taking antibiotics, if a doctor just hands you their favorite one or the one they get paid the most on or the one they get trained on, who knows why they recommend what they do or prescribe what they do, that it can actually make things worse inside of your gut because one round of antibiotics could actually destroy your different kinds of species of your gut microbiome and it might never come back again. But these little species are super important for all things. It makes up all of your body. Like how many trillions, I don't even know what the number is, Seth, is like trillions of bugs of cells that we have that are in the gut?
Yeah, so we have, about 100 trillion different microbes, bacteria in our gut. We have 10 times more bacteria in our body than we do human cells. We actually have more viruses in our body than anything. We have more viruses than bacteria, which is interesting with all this stuff going on now. They're telling us to stay at home, don't expose yourself to anything, wash your hands, use antibacterial soaps, spray your kids down with Lysol when they get home. It's the most idiotic thing you could do is that because the bacteria, your microbiome, is what protects and keeps the viruses in your body in check. So if you're wiping out all your good bugs, all you're doing is laying the groundwork for viruses to take control in the body. But yeah, I think it's in 2013, 67 million kids in America were prescribed antibiotics. And a lot of them, they're multiple dosages for ear infections, things like this. So when we talk about your microbiome is set a lot in the first 3 years of life. Really the first, the 9 months you're in the womb, you're getting a lot of microbiome bacteria things from your mother. Then you're born. Are you born cesarean section or vaginally? You're born vaginally, you go through the canal. You're picking up all the good bacteria from your mom. And that just bathes your entire body and your gut. So you have a good starting place. You have a foundation. If you're born via C-section, you missed out on that. And this is not to shame women that get C-sections. If you have to have a C-section, it's what it is. But I see today, doctors, they're going on vacation. They want to schedule a C-section so they can get out to Florida, which you're going to affect that kid for the rest of their life, So then once you're born, you're either going to get microbes through breast milk or through formula. Breast milk is going to have so much more, not only bacteria and microbes, but good fats and proteins that the body needs. So that kind of sets your microbiome. But then throughout life, it can be thrown off with things like antibiotics. We talk about medication, things like that. And I think 4 out of 5 Americans are prescribed an antibiotic every single year. Every year.
Wow.
So
wow.
When I talk about antibiotics, I think of it like a nuclear bomb. Like if your GP does a test and they think something's going on, or they just prescribe antibiotics, think of it like a nuclear bomb in your gut. You're just going through and wiping pretty much everything out. Not everything, but you get the gist. Good, bad, everything that's there is just blown up. So you may get rid of the infection for a bit, but what happens? It's going to come back stronger and stronger because you wiped out the good guys that are there patrolling, policing, keeping things in check, right? I give the analogy we went into Libya or Iraq. We got rid of Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. But then what happened? More bad guys came in. ISIS came in. That's not the best example, but you kind of get the gist. Like, you take all the guards out, the policemen, you're going to have robbers come in then. So when we're using a more targeted approach, it's like going in with a sniper rifle and slowly taking out the bad guys while giving the policemen what they need to keep things in check. So that's the difference in conventional medicine and things like holistic functional medicine when it comes to the gut.
That's so interesting that you bring up that as an analogy, because, you know, what they say is that I think it's like 80% of people do not agree with defunding the police. And it's kind of almost the same approach. It is, if you, I wouldn't say the popular approach right now is to sterilize everything. I don't think everybody agrees with that, but there's a lot of us who are looking at this and just palm to forehead. The more that we bathe in antibiotics and antibacterials, the more that our immune system on the inside is suffering. You know, you guys may have heard me talk about this before, but my immune system, the reason why I removed my breast implants, like the final aha moment for me where a whole wave of sadness came over me was when I saw the lab tests that we run in our Chi tribe. And I saw that my immune system marker, the gold standard that we look for inside of your labs, that is far deeper and far more reliable and reputable and resilient, is looking at something called secretory IgA. And my secretory IgA was a 44, and the optimal range would be like 1200. So my immune system had been fighting for a very long time against all of the toxins, like my breast implants or Botox, the gut bugs. I was riddled with candida. And this is the thing, you guys, we'll talk about this on the next episode, but you can't just go on a candida or parasite or antibacterial cleanse and expect that everything's going to get better. You know, colon cleanses are wonderful, but there's a problem when you do those in isolation without considering the whole big picture. And we don't want to, you to feel bad about doing those things in the past, because you're just doing your best. And this is exactly what I did. But when I came to this conclusion is I did about 8 years worth of candida and parasite cleanses. And while it made me feel better, it never went away because the root cause was still in there. And that was the major, and I call these bombs too, the atomic bomb that is breast implants. That's the cover of my book. The image is that we call them ticking time bombs because they permanently live inside of you. Whereas how you're referring to it, Dr. Seth, is that these antibiotics that go through, they destroy the gut, they kind of like kill everything, even the good guys and the good girls. But they move out of you, but they still leave a huge, it's like a wildfire. Imagine a forest after wildfire, like, oh my God, how long is this going to take for this beautiful forest to recover itself? You guys have seen those areas when you're driving on freeways and you can see them, like in Tahoe. I used to live close to Tahoe, and I'm like, oh my God, it hurts my soul to see all these black dead branches. Imagine Australia. That's like taking Cipro, those big Australia fires. It's like taking Cipro. Cipro, God. Seth, have you ever had any patients take Cipro and seen the other side of it and how it damages them?
Yeah, it's wild. And there's one study on PubMed that showed, just a course of Cipro alters the microbiome for a lifetime. But there's also, PubMed studies that show anywhere between a couple months to years for other antibiotics for the gut to get back to normal. So like you said, antibiotics are just way overprescribed today. Way overprescribed, and I'd like to, only use them in times of immediate need, like deathbed type stuff, because like, I think, what'd you say, that one of the biggest threats to humanity is antibiotic resistant diseases and things like that?
Yes. That was frightening to me to hear when I heard that. I wasn't surprised because, as you and I were talking before we got on the show today, is that there's antibiotics and vaccinations. When you eat processed food, which is pretty much 70 to 80% of what you see at the grocery store today, it's genetically modified and it's completely sprayed with Roundup. And Roundup is another antibiotic. In fact, if you guys have not heard my interview on that, talking about GMOs with the Zen Honeycut, I think it's like episode 6 or 7. Go listen to that. Should we talk about that? That it's in all of these foods. It's in your kids' cereal. It's in products that we're using on our body. If it's not organic, you can bet that glyphosate is in it. And so sometimes, Dr. Seth, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I want to put you on the spot. Are you ready?
Bring it.
Okay. I sometimes wonder because, if you guys are wondering about true gluten intolerance or sensitivity or celiac disease, we can help you differentiate that too. We have one of the patients in our practice right now just asked that very question when she joined our team on Tuesday for our team call, and Dr. Seth addressed it because it's difficult to know anything unless we see the full big picture, because some doctors will diagnose you with celiac, or they might say, oh, you don't have celiac, so you're fine eating gluten. But we beg to differ, because on the test that we run in our practice here that Dr. Seth and I are talking about, my antibodies to gluten were like off the chart. And I don't even eat gluten, so I don't know how it got challenged that my body was that pissed off about gluten, right? So I was like, okay, I guess I better, look to see where gluten might even be in my personal care products, because it could be in our personal care products if you're that sensitive, especially if you've done Accutane like I have. I've seen that correlation too. That's for another show. But my question to you, Dr. Seth, is my lab tested that I was really, really sensitive to gluten. I have tested this theory, and I've sometimes eaten gluten that was organic and sometimes eaten gluten that was, something at a restaurant. I find that it differs. How I react to it differs. Sometimes my body really has high reactions to it, like a diarrhea and bloating. Sometimes I don't. And I'm wondering if it's my body or any of us, perhaps, that could be reacting to the gluten or could be reacting to the glyphosate. How do we know that?
Yeah. It's tough to say what you're reacting to, but so I'll give you a personal story. I've been gluten-free for probably 8 years or so, just out of necessity, as it helped me heal so much faster. So I went to Italy a couple of years ago, and I was able to eat gluten. I was able to drink the wine. So in Europe, a lot of these things, glyphosate, they're banned. You can't use this shit on your food because they're like, that doesn't make sense. And we're like, oh, we'll just keep spraying it. Anyways, and I have a ton of patients, I'm sure you do too, that go to Italy and they're like, I was able to eat bread and pasta and I felt fine. I think there's multiple things. I think one is the glyphosate. Glyphosate usage has just increased in the past couple of decades. And you can see there's graphs of this. You can see an incidence of glyphosate usage with celiac, and the curve is almost identical. So I think that is very, very huge. And so glyphosate, what it does, it shuts off your liver detox. It alters your gut microbiome. It does so many different things. And the immune system's like, what the heck is this? There's so many things we're exposed to the past 3 or 4 decades that humans have never been exposed to before, that our immune systems are catching up and being like, this is a toxin. I'm not used to seeing this. So I think glyphosate's a big one. I think too, gluten in America is hybridized a lot. It's altered just a little bit for higher yield. And then I think also the gliadin and the gluten content in things like wheat is higher than it has been in years past. So I think all of that is a perfect storm for our immune system to react to this. Not to mention, most people are eating this 3 times a day. So you put all that together, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah. And then you add to that too, that a lot of women, which is who we work with in our tribe that Dr. Seth and I support, a lot of women have taken years of birth control and years of antibiotics and years of different types of medications, antidepressants, to just fix the symptom, which is, as I always describe it, it's like your body's this beautiful tree, and working with the medication level is just like trimming the branches instead of addressing the roots, which actually are responsible for making healthy branches. So we're not trying to overwhelm you with this information. So I always say we're not trying to scare you, we're trying to aware you, because it really isn't a straightforward thing that you go to a GI Western medicine doctor that's covered by your insurance and expect them to pay for you to get functional medicine deep-rooted lab testing that actually gets to the root, because that's not how they're trained. They're not bad people. They're just trained in a system that looks at the very surface of something and says, okay, we're going to cover and mask the symptoms, which is absolutely dangerous. It's like putting masking tape over your 2-year-old that's crying and saying, shut the hell up. Your baby is crying for a reason, and it's our job to explore what these symptoms might mean for you. And we're not born with a manual that says, when you have this symptom, this is what it could mean. Because as Dr. Seth said earlier, you could have lots of symptoms and not even realize that it's rooted in the gut. You could have no gut-related symptoms like diarrhea or constipation, but still have issues on the surface that stem from the gut. So there's a lot of different key moving parts here. And I've got so much material for the next episode and probably the next episode, because Dr. Seth is one of our Chi Tribe members. So I really want you to feel like you can involve yourself by asking questions. So we're going to end the show with some hope and some takeaways that you can implement in your life immediately. But here's just a little preview of what we're going to talk about next time. If you have questions about today or that you want us to cover in the next one, just go to dianekaiser.com/ask and type out a question, and we might bring you on. We might even use you as a little example, but we're definitely going to answer them for you. So in the future shows, we're going to talk about things like birth control and medications and how that can destroy your gut and how to recover from it, what the danger is of just taking over-the-counters like antacids. Also, we're going to talk about why just taking a probiotic will not just fix everything. We're going to talk about bacteria, different kinds of bacteria that may show up in your gut that actually are part of the reason why you have an autoimmune disease, which is the type of testing that we offer. It's amazing. It's so cool to see this stuff on lab tests because patients start to go, oh, that makes sense. Also going to cover candida and how that affects your brain. So many of us are experiencing a lot of brain fog, amnesia. We're forgetting things. We feel like we just can't even focus. We've got low motivation. A lot of that has to do with hormones too, but we're going to talk about hormones related to the gut and constipation, the danger of constipation. So we have a lot of topics coming up, and then also why candida and parasite cleanses are not the end all be all, because you can't just do that and expect everything to go get better. We're trying to save you time, money, and energy on doing something like that. So Dr. Seth, let's end here with a few takeaways on what gut health is really, because we just covered a lot about what gut health isn't, but what we're told is gut health. My doctor said everything was normal and fine, so I could just check that my gut's fine, and why that's dangerous. So what is gut health really? It's a big question, so you could dive as deep, and why did you like to go with that one?
Sure. Wow, you left the door wide open there.
Wide open.
So, gut health has so many facets to it. And, I think it comes back down to balance is the big thing I think of. That's the big word I think of. Because, a lot of conventional medicine can be just kill, kill, kill. But it's not necessarily that. It's what we find is balance and widespread, meaning that everything in the gut affects everything in the body. So much research coming out with the human microbiome. It's amazing. We know so little about the gut, but yet we're finding out much more every single day. It's so cool. But I think it's about, and this is why I'm so passionate about young kids' health, is how do we help people understand how important the gut is from a very young age, so they're inoculated with the good bacteria. And then how do you educate them to know what foods to eat along the way to nourish your bacteria, that you're not creating more bad, but you're actually feeding good and stabilizing that. And then educating them alternatives to medications, or how do you look deeper into figure out how do you maintain that balance in the gut. And I think the gut is also, it's the center of how you make your body. So the foods you eat are going to become your brain. They're going to become your skin. They're going to become your bones and your liver and your kidneys. How amazing is that? But you have to have a good gut in order for that to happen. If your gut is damaged, if it's inflamed, if it's overrun by bacteria and parasites and candida, they're going to rob you of your nutrients. You're going to be breaking down faster than your rebuild, which leads to chronic disease faster than you can blink. So I think that the gut and gut health is a balancing act. Nothing's perfect in this world. We have toxins everywhere. It's hard to find good food. But if we can, educate people, and you can educate yourself on what works for you, how to maintain a healthy gut, then you're going to be happy and healthy, and you're going to live a healthier life. You're going to feel better, and you can help others then too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are always saying that they put themselves, most women especially, put themselves fifth after their partner, after their parents, after their pet, and after their children. And then they wonder why they feel the way that they do. So if you truly want to be able to give more and love more and serve more, you have to consider this. This is it. And you might think, because we've all been programmed and brainwashed, that you need to help everybody else first and yourself last. And if you don't, it's selfish. but it's actually the flip side. Look at how upside down our world is right now. So just consider that maybe many of the things that you've been taught have also been, you've been misled. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you're a good person that wanted to trust. But if you want to be a lazy person and just take the pill, that's another story. But we're trying to empower you with how to take charge of your health, how to take ownership and accountability. And it's radical responsibility is what it really is. And this is where your whole life starts to change. You take your power back, because your gut really, truly, when you look at the chakra system, which is the energetic and emotional system from thousands of years ago, in your gut is the seed of your power. It's the seed of your power. How can you listen to your gut when it's filled with bugs that want to destroy you and steal your nutrients from you?
It's so true.
So, you know, it's on the energetic and emotional level too. So I just like to add a few things, because everything I talk about, you know, it's not just about what to do, it's also about what to undo. So when you look about the things that are blocking you from your overall health, beginning in the gut, is breaking it down into three things. It's your physical and your emotional and your chemical stress. So people oftentimes go after gut healing without also considering toxicity that also can recruit gut bugs. And unless you address the toxicity levels, such as things like heavy metals and neurotoxins, then the gut bugs will continue to come back as a buffer, especially candida. So if you guys haven't yet, go to dianekaiser.com and take the neurotoxic quiz to see how toxic that you are. And the question really is are toxins the root cause of your symptoms, which could be GI-related symptoms? Because parasites, they love to mop up the mess of heavy metals. And when you go in a parasite cleanse, you could also be exposing your whole body to all of these heavy metals that they release when you go after that bug kill. So just consider that there's all different things. Also, you know, Dr. Seth was a chiropractor, so I think it's important physically. That, you know, movement's really important. Lymphatic drainage through movement is really important. Also, I do things like serrapeptase enzymes, these types of enzymes that support the lymphatic system, proteolytic enzymes. And chiropractic treatments are really important too. So things that saved my life when I was going through my process was hydrocolon therapy, coffee enemas, chiropractic adjustments to make sure your nervous system is on point. So there's all these things you want to play as a whole symphony. There's 11 systems in your body. There's 11 instruments you want to have tuned together. Could you imagine you go to a rock show, a rock concert, and they all sound like they're playing by themselves and no one's playing together? That's what it's like. What Dr. Seth said earlier, there's all these individual doctors that do individual things. No one's talking to each other. When's the last time your GI doctor talked to your hormone doctor, who talked to your chiropractor, who talked to your, you know, yoga therapist or your, you know, psychologist? No one's talking to each other. They don't understand how they all influence each other, and they do. And then chemically, Dr. Seth talked a little bit about this, you know, eat your ferments, take probiotics, but for some people it aggravates them. So this is where you want to really look deeper in your GI test to see if they are a good idea for you, because if you have candida, it might not be a good idea to drink things like probiotic-rich kombucha. It might actually aggravate it. And the warrior way to all of this is to get a stool panel done, a deep stool panel done. Do not go to your Western medicine doctor and say, I would like to take a test that covers these things, and have the doctor listen to our episode, because they have no idea what we're talking about. They're going to think you're crazy. They're going to think we're crazy because they weren't trained this way. So don't put yourself in that position. You can just reach out to me, dianekaiser.com/call. We can talk about this to see if it's a good thing for you. And the last thing is emotional. If you have a lot of anger in your life, but think that just doing a gut bug killing spree or, you know, a 5-hour protocol is the idea, and you ignore that you still have a lot of anger and repressed emotions from your past, you're going to continue to destroy your gut. So that's the last little question I had for you, Dr. Seth, is what would you say about people who have a lot of repressed emotions, trapped traumas, or hidden hurts that they haven't addressed yet, and how that can relate to the gut?
God, I mean, that's just massive. You know, I've dealt with this stuff too, and it comes back.
Yeah.
There's so many different things, you know, anger or resentment or worthiness. All these different things, they're huge, but those are big blocks, you know, because it's like taking us 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, depending on what's going on. I think what you said too with putting yourself last, you have to put yourself first and recognize that you are worthy for it. I think that if you start there and know, just come from a place of love, I think a lot of things can stem from there, and just know to work on yourself. It's okay. It's not selfish to work on yourself. It's selfish to not work on yourself, because then no one gets the best of you. Everyone gets a little piece. No one gets the best. You can't help the world and spread your light how you're supposed to be here.
That feels so nourishing to hear. And when you think about that from even a chemical perspective, if you don't have love in your life, you have stress. It's fear or love. Those are the two opposing ends of the spectrum. And if you're not in a state of love, you're in a state of fear. And if you're in a state of fear, then you're releasing cortisol, stress hormones throughout your body, and that will actually cause leaky gut. So you can take all the leaky gut supplements in the world to nourish and repair your gut. But if you're living in a state of fight or flight, which is 70% of us, 70% of our day is in fight or flight, it's just going to come back. And a lot of us are oxytocin deficient, which means that we're not getting enough love. We're not giving ourselves enough love. And oxytocin is the anti-inflammatory that the whole body needs that actually will override the cortisol so that you won't have leaky gut. You'll actually have a loving gut. So it's really up to you. If you have a hard time believing what Dr. Seth just said, that you are worthy, then we have a whole nother set of issues, which is a belief system. And that's another reason that would be the whole idea of questioning the stories that you have and who you think you are and what you're worth. If you have a hard time saying, you know what, I feel like Dr. Seth said, I should feel worthy, but I don't. Why is that? It's not enough to know better today. It's enough to do better. So the question might be, why do I want to do something, but I'm not doing the thing? And those are the stories and the habits and the values and the belief systems that you were shaped with. So that's another thing that we've got to burn down. We've got to put a whole new belief system in there, so we actually chase away those bad bugs in the form of bad beliefs. But then we have the whole balance. We've got your mind, body, spirit. So it's a whole ecosystem, and we're so happy you guys spent about 45, I don't even know what we're talking, power hour with us today on gut health, starting from the things that we talked about today. Come back for the next show. It's going to rock your world and rock your gut. If you guys have any questions, again, dianekaiser.com/ask. If you're like, what kind of stool test is this? What are you guys talking about? And you're curious to learn more, dianekaiser.com/call. And if you also want to take that neurotoxicity test, just go to dianekaiser.com. All kinds of resources for you guys. Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. We know it is your busy day, and this is a great thing just to ingest so that you can be the best. See you in the next show.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If this episode really tugged at your soul and you're ready to have your personal breakthrough, we would love to have a heart-to-heart with you to get you crystal clear on 3 things. What do you want? What's standing in your way? And how do we get you to your soul goal in the fastest time possible? Visit my site, dianekaiser.com/call to schedule your free 1-hour connection session with one of our warriors to map out exactly how you want to look, feel, and live. We've helped thousands of women warriors just like you all around the world free themselves from the symptoms and suffering they never thought possible. And you just might be our next success story. Talk soon.